Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're going to talk about the invisible heroes running the show inside your body. I mean, these tiny little elements are basically conducting the symphony of your entire life, everything from your heartbeat to your very next thought. So, let's start with a question. What do you think really runs your heartbeat, your thoughts, and even holds your bones together? Yeah, we give all the credit to the big guys, the heart, the brain, but what's the invisible force behind the scenes? Making sure the whole performance actually works. Well, the answer, it turns out, is this incredible microscopic team of unsung heroes. Minerals. Seriously, these things are the essential conductors for that ridiculously complex symphony that's happening inside you right now, in every single cell. Okay, so to really get this, let's just stick with that whole orchestra idea for a bit. Think about it. Every single thing your body does, I'm talking a tiny muscle twitch, a deep thought, you name it, it needs a conductor. And guess what? Those conductors are minerals. And just like an orchestra, for the music to sound right, everything has to be in perfect balance. All right, first up in our mineral orchestra, let's meet the absolute masters of electricity and fluid balance. This is the electrolyte trio. Let's give a warm welcome to sodium, potassium, and chloride. So what's the big deal with these guys? What makes them so special? Well, electrolytes aren't just minerals. The moment they dissolve in your body's fluids, boom, they have an electric charge. And that little bit of electricity, that's what powers your entire nervous system. It's what lets your muscles move, and it's key to keeping you hydrated. Okay, get this. Your body works ridiculously hard to maintain this great divide. It shoves most of the sodium outside your cells and keeps most of the potassium inside. And this separation, this wall between them, creates an electrical charge across every single cell membrane. It basically turns each one of your cells into a tiny little battery. How cool is that? And that tiny little battery is, not just for show. It's absolutely crucial. By controlling how these charged ions flow back and forth, your body can do amazing things. We're talking about everything from firing a nerve signal all the way down your arm to making sure your blood stays at the perfect pH. So even though they live in different places, sodium and potassium are constantly working together as a team. Now, when it comes to sodium, more is definitely not better. It's essential, for sure, but there's a limit. Most experts say you should try to stay under 2,300 milligrams a day. If you start going over that on the regular, you really risk throwing that delicate electrolyte balance way off, and that can lead to some serious issues like high blood pressure. So that brings up a really important question, right? This whole system is so finely tuned, but what happens when it all gets thrown out of whack? Well, it's a real two-sided coin. For every single one of these electrolytes, having too little is just as dangerous as having way too much. Just look at potassium here. Not enough of it or too much of it can lead to major heart problems. This really drives home the main point. Your body doesn't just need these minerals, it needs them in exactly the right amount. It's all about that perfect balance. Okay, so we've talked about the body's electrical wiring. Now, let's check out its architectural foundation. Let's meet the two heavy hitters, the bone-building duo, calcium and phosphate. Okay, this is a mind-blowing fact. Are you ready for this? A full 99%, almost all of the calcium in your body is just locked away inside your bones and teeth. That's the stuff that literally gives you the strength to stand up, to walk around, to live your life. But wait, what about that tiny little 1% that's left over? You might think it's not important, but don't you dare underestimate it. That 1% is an absolute powerhouse. It's floating around in your fluids and tissues, and it's in charge of everything from releasing neurotransmitters so you can think to making every single one of your muscles contract. So, how does the body manage that all-important 1%? With this absolutely brilliant hormonal system, you can honestly think of it just like a thermostat for calcium. If your levels dip too low, parathyroid hormone kicks in and says, hey, we need more. If they get too high, calcitonin steps in to cool things down. It's just this constant, elegant little dance to keep things just right. And of course, you can't really talk about calcium without giving a shout out to its partner in crime, phosphate. They work together to form the very crystals that make your bones hard. But phosphate is like a jack of all trades. It's incredibly versatile. It's a fundamental building block of your DNA. And it's the P in ATP, which is basically your body's main energy currency. It does it all. All right, so we've got our electricians and our architects, but you know what every engine needs? A spark plug. And in our body's mineral orchestra, that spark plug is definitely magnesium. It is the master facilitator, the one that makes hundreds of different processes just run.
The thing about magnesium is it rarely works alone. It's what's known as a cofactor, which is just a fancy word for a helper molecule. And it helps out over 300 different enzymes. Just let that sink in for a second. Without magnesium, hundreds of your body's most essential chemical assembly lines would just grind to a halt, especially the ones that are all about creating energy.
And man, its resume is seriously impressive. Magnesium is vital for turning the food you eat into actual energy. It helps keep your mitochondria, your little cellular power plants, healthy and happy. And it plays a huge role in sending nerve signals and making sure your muscles can relax properly. This stuff is literally involved everywhere. So, let's recap. We've met the electricians, the architects, and the spark plugs of our body. And all of this, every single piece, points to one single unifying idea that rules over all of them. You have got to get the balance right. When you boil it all down, the health of your entire mineral orchestra really comes down to what you could call the Goldilocks principle. For sodium, for potassium, calcium, magnesium, for every single mineral we've talked about, the key to everything working perfectly is not having too little and not having too much. It has to be just right. And what's truly incredible is the constant, nonstop, tireless work your body does just to maintain that perfect balance. It's using hormones, it's using your kidneys, all these complex transport systems. It's always adjusting, absorbing, getting rid of stuff, all to keep that internal symphony playing in perfect harmony. So this leaves us with one final, and I think pretty empowering thought. Now that you've been introduced to the conductors of your own internal orchestra, you get to ask yourself a really simple question. Is your diet helping them create a beautiful symphony, or is it just creating a bunch of noise, a total cacophony? The cool thing is, now you know, and the power to choose, that's all yours.